And away we go. It's the DFS Other presented by Awesemo.com. Dan Strafford, Dave Lockren along with you on this Friday morning. Just 6 games on this NBA slate. We'll talk through that. We'll talk through DK pricing. We'll use that as our jumping off point. We'll talk a bit about Yahoo's offerings and what Awesemo has in store for the next 20 days or so, an offering through January 10th that I will give to you after shooting guard for you to get in for cheap to Awesemo Plus Premium. Dave Lockren, how the hell are you doing?
Doing well, man. Doing well. I'm watching this show on Netflix called Messiah. It just came out on January 1st. And I must say, it's pretty interesting. I tweeted about this. It's like some odd combination of The Leftovers and Homeland.
Somebody tweeted back to you saying that I looked like one of the main characters or something along those lines.
But they were talking about from another show, The In-Betweeners or something.
Got it. Okay.
So. Yeah, not from that one. But it's interesting. I'm about 8 episodes in. I got 2 left. I'm going to do that after we finish this up. It's a pretty fascinating show. Got a little slow in the middle, but so far, I can't wait to get back to it.
It's been a long time since we've all talked TV on here, so good to hear there are still new shows coming out that interest you. And I don't have anything really new that I'm watching. I'm watching a terrible show that I don't even want to admit to just
What's
because.
It called?
The Magicians. It's terrible.
Oh, I thought you were going to say You.
Oh, no. I watched the first season of You, and
I liked it, dude.
It was fine. I enjoyed it.
What anyone says. So
it's fine.
I mean, it's not Dexter, but nothing could end as poorly as Dexter did anyway. No. I have low hopes, low expectations.
Any show with what's her name, Deb, I forget the actress's name, I can't watch. She's just one of the worst employed actresses in the world. So
she drives me nuts.
Yeah.
She even in Dexter, she drove me nuts.
Yep.
She had a show out now, I think, where she's like,
she was on NBC or something for a little while.
The main character.
Yep.
Yeah.
She's a cop
or something.
Again. Yep. Exactly right.
To say, I did not watch.
Did you continue watching Sneaky Pete?
Yeah.
Are you caught up there? Because it's funny that one of the cops from Dexter was one of the mob guys in Sneaky Pete, and I for 2 episodes, it's like I know this guy from somewhere. I know I can't place him, but then finally,
I feel like season 3 came out.
The guy with the weird blonde hair.
When did season 3 come out of Sneaky Pete?
Sometime over the summer. So season 2 is what I'm talking about, when they actually chase his mom.
Yeah. I know. I know exactly who you're talking about. Yeah, and he looked familiar to me as well.
Yep. All right, 6 games on tap here. We will give you the foundational plays. You get the NBA strategy show bright and early Friday morning. Then you get, of course, the NBA deeper dive at 5 p.m. 6 p.m. is live before lock. You are also welcome to come behind the paywall. You get projections, ownership projections, the deep dive, which is the article written for premium subscribers, and you get Slack chat. And I will talk to you a little bit after shooting guard about how to get in for cheap at present here in January. But we are looking at a point guard position with LeBron at 11-2. James Harden has a price point against Philadelphia here, and a very good defensive unit, understand that, of 10-9. Now back-to-back games where he's sub 11K on DraftKings. Damian Lillard is 9,700. Trae Young, Russell Westbrook, Kemba Walker holding a Q tag with an illness, which seems to be the same one Dave and I are battling here, is going around the NBA. It's pretty bad. I was telling Dave before, 3 weeks on, and pretty sure I have strep now. So it's a good time waiting for those antibiotics to be prescribed, hopefully tomorrow at the doctor. But what do you like at the top end here? LeBron clearly is blowout proof. I know we don't talk blowouts, but so often he is the focal point of an offense that is booming when they are getting it done, even in blowouts like you saw. I know it ended 117-107, but that game was pretty much over in the third quarter. What do you like here at the top end? LeBron, Harden, Lillard. Any of these guys seem like prime spots? It seems like all 3 of them, in fact, could have upside, with Harden with the worst matchup of the 3.
Yeah, I mean, Lakers are favored by 11 points, but it's still a pretty appealing spot. Going up against a Pelicans team that plays at an elevated pace, has one of the worst defenses in the league. I mean, I definitely think that this is a more than appealing spot for LeBron. The question is, do you want to pay for him here? Because you got LeBron at 11-2 on DraftKings, Harden at 10-9, Anthony Davis at 10-3. He is expected to play. He's probable in this one. Damian Lillard, Whiteside, Embiid. The list goes on. Trae Young is down at 9,200, which is funny because last time he played, he was 11-2, 10-8. His price has plummeted. And then Westbrook against Philly. So you do have a decent amount of options here. Bradley Beal is down to 8,500. The pricing has been so strange on DraftKings lately. Thursday, super sharp. Now you got some really odd ones here. Beal and Trae Young are two of them just off the top. I mean, Beal is almost the same. Beal and Westbrook, Beal specifically is almost the same price as Jayson Tatum. That's pretty insane and makes no sense to me. But yeah, I think Harden is fine, or LeBron is fine. With James Harden, though, look, it's not a great matchup, but 10-9 is ridiculously cheap.
Right.
He was 10-5 against Denver. Sure, he wasn't stellar, but I don't really care. Like 10,900 on Harden is just absolutely – it's a mouth-watering price when you consider what this guy can go out and do. Yeah, it's not a good matchup, but it doesn't matter when you're talking about a 38% usage guy, 35% assists, playing 38 minutes in competitive games. This should be a close game. There's nothing not to like about this spot for James Harden. By the way, he lost 4 minutes in a game that they blew out Denver. So, you're looking at well over 60 fantasy points in an equally tough matchup. I think James Harden here is really tough to ignore.
Makes a lot of sense. How do you feel about Dame Lillard at the top end as well? Would seem to be in a very solid matchup against, of course, the Washington Wizards. He is 9,700 on the road. You mentioned Trae Young already, and then we make our way into the mid-tier.
Yeah, the spot for Damian Lillard is ideal, going up against Washington. And one thing that's nice to see is you've actually seen Terry Stotts staggering the minutes more with McCollum lately. So you're getting, 4 and then 5, 6, 7, 8, 7 minutes. And then, oh, wow. Okay. 8, 9, 10, 11. That's about 12, 13, 14 minutes per game recently that Lillard's been playing without McCollum. I love to see that. Because the more they stagger these guys, the better both of them are, as long as they continue to play the same minutes. Like, I would want at least one of them on the court at all times, and you've been seeing that lately. Damian Lillard has not been the same this season as we've seen in previous years, but he's been much better recently. He's playing some of the biggest minutes in the entire league, and look, they're just not a good enough team right now for me to go into it and say, oh yeah, Portland should win this one with ease. I'm not going to assume that at all. So let's assume he gets 38 minutes, 37 minutes like he's been playing. I know Lillard's priced up a little bit, but it's a spectacular spot. I really like Dame Lillard here. So Harden and Lillard are the two guys. And look, honestly, Trae Young at this price is too cheap. He comes back. He's not hopefully not restricted in the event that he's not limited. He's just too cheap. I know it's not a good matchup, but $9,200 for someone of Trae Young stature, someone that's getting up, potentially 30 shots a game, 28, 29, 30. Look at what he's doing recently, playing huge minutes, 40% assist rate. There's nothing not to like about him at that price point either.
All right, let's make our way into the mid-tier, the likes of Ben Simmons, Devin Booker with a matchup with the Knicks, Drew Holiday in that Lakers matchup probably at the end of this list. Rubio should play. I guess note I saw is that he tweaked his hip, but is probable for this game against the New York Knicks. It would seem like he has a ton of upside. McCollum, Lonzo Ball coming off a gigantic game. We can, of course, bear with the revenge narrative I'm sure we'll hear discussed many times over on Friday for Mr. Ball, but what do you like in the mid-tier? Any of these names seem like important plays, at least early on for Friday's slate?
You never know what you're going to get with Lonzo Ball. But
Yes, sir.
The one interesting thing about him is he does have triple-double upside, and we know that, especially if he's getting the minutes. And you look at this last game, as you mentioned, 27, 10, and 10. Huge triple-double here. It was certainly good to see that in a 127 to 112 win over the Houston Rockets, which was also very surprising. Lonzo Ball played monstrous minutes in this game. Now you can ask yourself how much of that has to do with the fact that he was just having a stellar outing, but he played 36 minutes against Denver, 30 against Indy. I think you put him around 34 minutes even. You don't need to give him 38. Give him 34 minutes here. At 6K, he does make for a pretty solid play. I don't love the matchup, and I think he's only going to be as good as the amount of minutes you're projecting him for. Like if you're giving him 32, 33 minutes, I don't imagine Lonzo Ball is going to pop. But if you're giving him 35, it probably does make a difference. I'd say he's a mid-tier guy for me, not at the top, but definitely in play. And I'm going shooting guard too here, just so we can, break it all down.
Sure.
We already mentioned Harden. We're still waiting on injury news, so it's hard to get into any of that. Right now, there isn't any excellent value at the position. With someone like Terrence Ross being down there at a dirt cheap price point, you're going to get good games from him, but it's a tough matchup. I don't see any great value right now. Like, do you trust Kent Bazemore just because it's against Washington to get 28 minutes and do something with it? That's tough to say. Isaac Nunn and Tyler Hero, they've both seen their price points drop considerably. And that would be one reason that I think I'm willing to look there. Kendrick Nunn on DraftKings is down to $4,400. Tyler Hero is a little bit different because since Goran Dragic has returned, his minutes have been all over the place. But that seems like a price tag on Kendrick Nunn that is definitely too low. He's down from 5,100 down to 4,400. He does have the upside to put those solid games up. It's not a big slate, so I could see why you would like him. And CJ McCollum as well. We talked about Lillard. McCollum is a really solid option here. And if you're talking mid-range, similarly priced, a little bit more expensive. Jimmy Butler is 7,800. Whenever he's sub 8K, I'm willing to get there. And Devin Booker. So all three of those guys in the 7K range are actually really appealing options.
Yeah, mix the shooting guard, as you said, with the point guard makes sense here on this slate. Shorter and lots of crossover appeal. Keep an eye on Nick's injuries. Not saying you want to play anyone necessarily in this next backcourt, but you have, I know, Dennis Smith Jr. and Alfred Payton with question marks about whether or not they will play. And you mentioned Kendrick Nunn, 33 minutes, 44 seconds of playing time last time out against the Washington Wizards in a game that the Heat lost 123-105. Nunn played the entire fourth quarter in that contest, along with Adebayo, who played the entire fourth as well and played 35.
He also played tonight.
Yep.
Wow, what a low-scoring game that was. Kendrick Nunn played 38 minutes today against Toronto.
Did you see, I don't know if it was from tonight's game, the Bam Adebayo isolation drive to the hoop?
I did not.
There's video. I'll see if I can find it on Twitter. It's very amazing. It's Adebayo just basically shooing away a pick and then going one-on-one with someone and driving the lane.
He's a good player, man.
It was fun to watch. So you hit a bunch on shooting guard and point guard. Again, remember, you get the NBA Strategy Show first thing Friday morning, trying to lay the foundation. Also give you something to listen to on that morning commute as Dave and I take a first look at this slate and see what's going on. A lot of lines still not out, so trying to do our best to gauge exactly how these matchups are going to go. But I do want to remind you that at Awesemo.com, you have the opportunity right now to use the promo code 2020, that is 2020, to get in for $20 for 20 days for Awesemo Plus Premium. That gets you absolutely everything other than Fantasy Cruncher. Fantasy Cruncher is still an add-on on top of that, but it gets you absolutely everything that you could want, meaning the projections, the ownership projections. It gets you lineup builder. It gets you Slack chat. Gets you the deep dive article I was talking about before. And it gets unlimited direct messages to Ship My Money DFS over there on Slack chat. So you can do that as well with – love you, Adam. $20, 20-day opportunity. Check out Awesemo_com for the Twitter handle, which has the details in a graphic. But that is valid through January 10th. So you need to use that promo code by January 10th to get in. And I will remind you, you can use the promo code Awesemo over there on Yahoo DFS. Yahoo has had plenty of contests all season long for NFL. They are continuing that in NBA. They will have the Baller on Friday night, which is available to you for $10. And you can use the promo code Awesemo and get up to $30 in Yahoo Sports Reward points. So you will want to check that out as well. A different way to play DFS with different pricing and a little bit of different scoring as well. And you can also check out Emacs Yahoo article for more details therein. Now, being we use DK as our jumping off point, we do have a lot of MPE cross different positions, and getting to specific players at specific times may be difficult. You already touched on Jimmy Butler against Orlando. Over at small forward, we do have LeBron we've talked a bit about at point guard. Jayson Tatum, who you did bring up in relation to, I think it was, whose price point was that? Oh, Bradley Beal. Bradley Beal's price point being near Tatum's. So is there, do you like Tatum $300 less than Beal? Is the usage for Beal, if he's healthy and playing here, just too high to take Beal over Tatum? I know it's two separate positions, but thinking them as a one-on-one, and then where else do you see yourself going at small forward?
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely not. You said over Beal?
Yeah, so similar price points, 85 and 8,200. You got Tatum against Atlanta, which has a sieve of a defense.
Oh, okay, different positions.
Yep,
though.
yep.
Okay, yeah. No, I would take Beal here for sure.
Okay.
Look, a couple of things. First of all, coming off the injury, there've been a couple blowouts, but if he comes back, assuming he's fine, you got a guy that's going to play 38 minutes, unless Scott Brooks totally changes things up, and I don't imagine that'll be the case. So if he continues to play those type of minutes, Bradley Beal all day in this spot. Kemba Walker, I think Kemba's going to play, so we'll see. It says game time decision right now, dealing with an illness. I thought I saw something that said he might play, but he actually didn't practice. He's got flu-like symptoms. So, I mean, that obviously changes a lot. It makes guys like Jaylen Brown and Gordon Hayward more appealing. It makes Tatum more appealing too. But my thing is Tatum that much better than Jaylen Brown and Gordon Hayward, who are both a lot cheaper? I mean, I would rather just go down the Gordon Hayward there. You know, he's playing 35 minutes in close games. Right. I'm not saying it's going to be close, but I think there's a very good chance. No, you know what? No, I don't. At least if Trae Young is back, that could make a pretty considerable difference. But look, Jayson Tatum's floor is not that high. You know, he can drop some big games from time to time, but he also gives you some absolute duds as well. So I'd rather just pay down for Hayward in that spot. It is a good matchup against Atlanta, but I'd certainly like to know what Kemba Walker's status is before we even get into that. And that's why you have all the shows. Jimmy Butler is there. Here's the thing with Houston. The Houston Rockets do play at a fast pace. Over the last month, they've been playing at the 8th fastest pace in the league. But I think on the season, they're like top 2. Yeah, it's 2nd fastest pace. Defensively, they're middle of the road. They rank 17th. So it's a fine spot for guys like Ben Simmons, but it's just a matter of whether you want to pay for him or pay for Bradley Beal or a bunch of other guys that are priced similarly at the guard spots or at small forward. And I don't think I'd get to Ben Simmons. Brandon Ingram, you know, I talk about the revenge game at the Staples Center. I'm not really interested in that, but I do think at his price point, you could say he's a pretty solid option. I mean, he's in the 7K range. He's been playing spectacular basketball all season long. Zion Williamson isn't back yet. So until he is, you should probably expect to see big games from Brandon Ingram. And you're getting a lot of them. You're also getting really consistent games from him. Look, he's a 29% usage player, double-digit rebounding rate, 19% assist rate. He does rack up the numbers pretty nicely. And I think at that price, I would definitely be interested in getting to him. 223 total, I would imagine. That'll be one of the higher marks on the slate. So, yeah, Ingram stands out to me as a pretty solid option. I just think the price tag's fair. I don't want to pay more for Tatum. I know Tatum's facing Atlanta, but I'd still rather play Ingram here with a guy that's a near 30% usage player.
All right, let's continue on here at small forward, where we do have the likes of Kelly Oubre Jr. You mentioned Gordon Hayward at 6,800. Oubre Jr. How many Suns or too many Suns here against the Knicks? It's not a fast-paced team. The Knicks' defensive rating is bad, but not the bottom of the barrel, and they have been playing better of late. Is this maybe a little bit of a trap game where having too many Suns will sink some DFS lineups?
Yeah, I mean, I think this 6 gamer is actually more enticing than yesterday's 9 gamer, you know, to put it in perspective here. But Kelly Oubre, sometimes the minutes are all you need, right?
Yep.
And you get these type of minutes against the Knicks, good things can happen. And another thing to consider here is, like, what type of run is he getting in the first half and the third quarter? The reason I ask is, well, let's take a look. So Kelly Oubre against the Blazers played 7 in the first quarter, 15, 16, 17, 18, almost 19 minutes in the first half. Okay. So almost 19 minutes in the first half. That's 19 right there. And then 8, 9, 10, 11. So or 7, 8, 9, sorry, 10 in the third quarter. So that's like almost 30 minutes. Now he played the full fourth quarter. That game was competitive, but even so, like he's still going to probably play into the fourth quarter, at least for a few minutes. And if that's the case, you're getting, 33 minutes from him, even if this game gets out of control. And let's not pretend that the Suns are some juggernaut offensively or defensively. So yeah, no, I think Kelly Oubre is more than viable here. It all comes down to, hey, he can play 38, 40 minutes. Sometimes the analysis really is that easy. Like he's on the floor for 34 or 38 minutes in a close game, 40 maybe in a close game, 33, 32 in a blowout. And if it's against the Knicks and it's a blowout, someone has to put up those numbers. I don't see why it couldn't be Oubre.
And to point out against the Lakers as well on New Year's Day, I believe, played 38 or 36 minutes and played a ton in the first half and 10 minutes in the third quarter. So similar projection there on getting to 36, 38 minutes in that contest. So I think Oubre makes a ton of sense here, as does Booker and Rubio in the matchup with the Knicks.
And that was a 36-point game at one point,
right,
too.
Exactly right. So let's any cheap options. I mean, we get to the guys like Danny Green for the Lakers and Bridges for Phoenix and Eric Gordon, like guys that you probably don't want to roster unless absolutely push. I guess a guy like Duncan Robinson's playing a decent amount of minutes in the Miami starting lineup. Not going to wow you, but giving you 25 to 30 DraftKings points may be viable in a cash game lineup. But anyone cheap on the small forward front?
So how many minutes did Robinson play? Let's see. I just want to get a good. He played 18 minutes last game. Tyler Hero, I'm talking about Thursday, by the way, played 33.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, I mean, look, Robinson has been playing minutes, so I don't think it's crazy. He got off to such a hot start the other night. I'm sure a lot of people were very excited about that, and then he finished with like 22 fantasy points or 25, which at his price was fine. But it looked like he was on his way to a monster game. He hit 3 threes in the first like 6 minutes of that game and then kind of disappeared. At 4K, though, I don't think it's crazy. I don't love the matchup against Orlando. This Orlando defense, though, is not going to be the same with Jonathan Isaac set to miss 2 months. I mean, he has been a defensive anchor for them this year. And I think that's gonna be a huge hit. So, yeah, I don't know. Keep an eye on what that lineup looks like. Will they move Fournier to the 3, and will they start Terrence Ross? Will they start Wes Iwundu, and then Terrence Ross comes in and plays like 28 minutes off the bench?
Right.
That could make things interesting, and that could also make Terrence Ross a very good value play at shooting guard or small forward. But I think we got to pay attention to that.
Yeah, some injuries to keep an eye on throughout the day. On Friday, again, NBA Strategy Show first thing, and then you get the deeper dive and live before lock from 5 to 7 p.m. Eastern time. Power forward, you may mention that it looks like AD will play. Now, this is going to be ongoing. I assume he will be Q-tag for the rest of the season. Between his shoulder and his ankle and the like, you're just going to leave him on the injury report, but he should play here at 10-3. Then you get a lot of the guys we've talked about. Do want to get your thoughts here on Julius Randle. Phoenix is a pace-up game for the Knicks. Knicks are, I think, bottom 10 in the league in pace. Phoenix is top 10 as of right now. Not a huge jump per se, but Randall's been playing a ton of minutes. He's been sort of the catalyst behind a little bit of a 500 resurgence here for the Knicks, playing in the front court, playing 35, 37, 39 minutes. Is this a good enough matchup to play Randall again at 7,700?
I mean, did you see he said that he's had more confidence?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I take it for what it's worth, but I think Mike Miller is just anything's better than Fizdale, right? I mean, when it comes to Julius Randle against Phoenix, he's getting last game was a like 24-point blowout or something, but he's been playing huge minutes and he's been playing excellent basketball. I think 7,700 is a more than reasonable salary for Julius Randle. I actually had mentioned this to Adam before one of our shows when we were talking, when we're writing articles and stuff, we'll bounce ideas off each other. Just like if we come across,
it's called collusion, Dave. It's called collusion.
Collusion. Yeah. How's that working out? We'll be like, hey, did you see this stat? Or, check this out. And I'd mentioned that Randle over his first 6 or 7 games, whatever it was, since Fizdale was gone, was averaging 1.25 fantasy points per minute. And I would imagine since I last mentioned that probably a week and a half ago, it's only improved. So yeah, dude, I like Julius Randle quite a bit.
Where else do you see yourself, at least early on here, first glance? What is drawing your eye at power forward?
I mean, Anthony Davis going up against his former team is always interesting. He faced them already, and I believe that was in New Orleans.
Right.
I forgot who. Someone was like, dude, he scored 41. It was a season high. It's like, okay, trying to argue that it was the revenge game. Number one, I doubt he's feeling much hostility towards a team that he didn't want to be on, and now he's on a team with, I think, the best record in the NBA. But number two, even if you were to entertain that, like, is it fair to point out that he also was facing one of the worst defenses and one of the fastest paced teams in the league? So I don't know. He attempted 30 shots. It's possible it had something to do with it. But just a week or two ago, he took 29 shots against Minnesota, and there's no hostility there. Although I do think that may have been an overtime game. Still, could it have something to do with it, Dan? Maybe.
Sure.
I don't know. Maybe. But I can't, the problem is I can't sit here and project him for more points because of that.
Right.
If you want to go ahead and project him for more fantasy points, and by the way, that was not an overtime game. If you want to go ahead and project him for more field goal attempts, then do it. But it's a risky venture. What I would say is that Anthony Davis is very reasonably priced, and while he's coming off a couple ugly games, this is still a very good matchup for him. Plus, I don't count revenge games unless it's at the old stadium. I think that's fair, right? If it's at the Smoothie King Center, sure. Lakers Center or Staples Center, I'm good. But I just think it's a good spot for Anthony Davis. That's enough for me. He's still a 30+% usage guy with an excellent shot block rate and a quality rebounder. So, yeah, that falls into place.
All right, as we scroll through power forward, much of the names we've talked about at small forward, is Carmelo Anthony a all-star in your opinion? I'm just kidding. I don't really.
Excuse me. Yeah.
We don't need to get into that.
You see, your own voice didn't want you to say that.
Exactly right. My journalistic integrity was like, nope, don't go there. Don't do it. I forced it through anyway. How about someone like Daniel Tice? I know minutes aren't necessarily there every game, but this is, again, Atlanta's won. I think points in the paint is last in the league when it comes to that stat. Any interest in any of the Boston front court players outside of the Tatums and Browns of the world, the power forwards or centers?
No, not particularly. I don't think you need to get there. What type of run these guys are seeing is also important. It's been really difficult to predict what you're going to get from Daniel Tice and Enes Kanter in that front court. So I don't have a whole lot of interest in going there. I mean, I think Melo is interesting, right? But the price has to be right. He's $6,000 on FanDuel. That's really not that bad. You compare that to $6,700 on DraftKings. FanDuel is a little bit friendlier, right? And it is Washington. It is, the best matchup in the league that you can find for any team at this rate. Fast-paced Washington team, banged up from top to bottom. One of the worst, I believe they do have the worst defensive rating in the league. Yeah, that would be correct. They're actually 2.5 points per 100 possessions worse than the Cleveland Cavaliers. So that tells you all you need to know. Carmelo Anthony, $22 on Yahoo as well. I think he's perfectly fine there. On DraftKings, a little bit more difficult to get there at 6,700.
All right, scrolling through here, seeing if there's any cheaper options at power forward. Doesn't seem like anybody stands out as of yet. Of course, there are some injuries that may yield one or two names, but nothing at the cheap end of the pool. Actually, pretty thin when it comes to cheap names on this slate. Let's close it out talking some center. where we do have the likes of AD, but we have
I think,
somewhat.
sorry, Aaron Gordon.
Okay.
Assuming now he's going to get every minute at the 4, could be he's $5,700 on DraftKings. Like, give me him over Melo all day. Not a good matchup. I know he's not having the greatest of seasons. Closer he plays to the basket, the better he is. Taking Isaac off the court is only going to benefit him, and I think it solidifies his minutes even further.
All right, that makes a ton of sense and worth flagging here as we talk through this slate. Center, Whiteside gets Washington with very little in the front court. Embiid against Houston. We talked about pace up there. Vucevic against Miami. And then Bam Adebayo gets that matchup on the other side with Orlando. We can get to some of the mid-tier momentarily. But Whiteside, Embiid, Vucevic, any interest in those three?
Last one here and then talk center. I know you asked about some cheap guys.
Yep.
If you're desperate in a really unappealing matchup, but the minutes have been there for Derrick Jones. He's played 31. Actually, he's been playing huge minutes every day. The numbers aren't all that reliable from a fantasy perspective, but you look at the minutes he's playing. He played another 28 minutes yesterday, had like 22 fantasy points. He's $3,900 on DraftKings. That could end up being a very solid value play if nothing opens up. So
very well.
Who are the three you asked about?
Whiteside, Embiid, Vucevic, top end of center. I would assume Whiteside is in a lot of people's plans, but also 9,500 price point for Hassan Whiteside seems a bit exorbitant as he's been playing very well, has been rostered obviously across this and has a prime matchup. That feels like on this slate maybe too expensive a price point.
That does feel pretty expensive, yeah. 9,500 for Hassan Whiteside. Wow. I mean, I think we all love this guy, but I don't see how I pay 95 for Whiteside when I could pay 10-3 for Anthony Davis against the New Orleans Pelicans, right?
Right.
I would go with him there, and I would take Joel Embiid in this spot as well. You know, Joel Embiid's not on the injury report. He's still a monster per minute guy. They've lost 3 straight games on this 4-game road stretch. This is their last one before they go home. Been a terrible stretch of games. He's a 1.6 DraftKings point per minute player. My assumption is that Brett Brown is going to run him heavy in this game. I think even in regulation, you get around 35 minutes from Joel Embiid. You get 35 minutes, even at like 1.5 fantasy points per minute. He's still a solid option. Joel Embiid over Whiteside at a cheaper price, Davis over Whiteside at a more expensive price. The only thing I would say is if Whiteside, because of this same thing that we're saying right now, comes in like virtually unowned, then that definitely makes him a little bit more interesting. But where you have MPE on DraftKings, it's a spot that affords you a lot of alternatives, like Anthony Davis, Randle's eligible at 77, Embiid at 94. Do I think Whiteside could pay off that salary in this spot? Yeah, it's certainly possible. But I think the likelihood that he ends up being a better play than both Davis and Embiid is tough.
And that makes a ton of sense. I think is the right way to frame it in whether or not he pays off at that price point over the 2 other guys in the same area as him. To point out, FanDuel 9,300, Embiid is 9,200. AD is power forward eligible over there and is 10-4. So take that for what it's worth as you work through your FanDuel lineups. Obviously, different roster construction over there will make you choose differently as you work through your FanDuel lineup construction. Any other names at center as you look through? We have Ayton and Capella. We already talked about Julius Randle. Any take on Adebayo or down to a Mitchell Robinson or Enes Kanter or Jan Mahinmi while we're at it? Anybody else in the upper to mid-tier that you think is worth mentioning?
I mean, I don't get the price on Bam Adebayo. I don't get what's happening here. You know, I thought he was a little bit too cheap at 8,100, 7,600. Sure, the matchup's unappealing. It was unappealing against Toronto, but when you're getting the ridiculous minutes that he is, when you're a 1.2 fantasy point per minute guy, look, he played 36 minutes again yesterday. He didn't have a stellar game. He had like 39 fantasy points, but when you get him at 7,600, what's there to lose? You know, it seems like there's
in a close game too. Yeah.
In a close game, it feels like this should be another pretty solid spot. So, I have him here, and it's so odd, man. Adam and I discussed this at length on the deeper dive. We ran super late and almost like had to cut into 2. we covered all the games, but we had to go real quick on the last 2 games. The reason for that is we spent so much time trying to differentiate between DraftKings and FanDuel and Yahoo because DraftKings pricing was so much sharper than FanDuel and Yahoo, which had everybody basically for free. Now you look at Clint Capella's 6,900 on DraftKings. Adebayo's 60 or 76. A lot of these guys are just wildly underpriced. And I don't mind throwing DeAndre Ayton into that mix as well. He's coming in at what, $7,300 against the Knicks. This position has quite a bit to chew on, and it's a really fascinating slate on DraftKings. A lot different than it was yesterday for sure.
I'll be intrigued to see how much run Mitchell Robinson gets in this one. He's been upper 20s, 25 to 28 minutes, had 13 minutes against Washington in a game that the Knicks, I believe, won 107-100 at home, but I don't remember exactly. But last time out, I don't know if you saw, went 11 of 11 from the field. I think 10 of those, or maybe 9 of them, were lobs.
So, no question. Not surprising at all.
So much fun to watch him play.
He's a good player, man. He's never going to be a shooter, but he's a good player.
No, not at all. Looking no real cheap options here. Again, tune in throughout the day. You get the NBA Strategy Show. You get the write-up, the deep dive if you're a member of Awesemo.com. And don't forget, 2020 is the promo code 2020, and that gets you Awesemo Premium Plus for 20 days for $20. You need to use that by January 10th for it to be eligible for that discount. So check that out over at Awesemo.com or check out our Twitter handle at Awesemo_com for more details on that. Quickly, Dave, here we'll go 9,500 and up. Whiteside, Lillard, Davis, Harden, and LeBron. Who's your favorite play of the slate?
Oh, that's tough. I really do like Lillard, but Harden's just anytime Harden's sub 11K, I don't see how you can forego that, like regardless of matchup. You know what I mean? It's just you just look at his last 10 games. I don't like to use this type of analysis, but like 80, 84, 59, 54, 51, 69, 54, 58, 76, 55, and he lost minutes in that game. I mean, what's the worst case scenario? Harden gives you 55. Like worst case scenario with all these other guys is you get a 40 spot. Not with Harden, unless he gets hurt. He's an instant 50 with upside for 80.
Right. Makes a ton of sense and has the price point here that is just pretty hard to ignore on a slate of 6 games as well. So we've talked about it a few times for DK. I think a lot of people have pointed out pricing differences across the industry, but DraftKings has been pretty soft on certain players, which is something to keep an eye on. And I will say always, if you're looking to play certain players, check out the price points on different sites. If you have the time, check out FanDuel, check out Yahoo, check out DraftKings, try to build some different lineups in different places and maybe get some exposure to different guys that you may not be able to get on a DK or a FanDuel on vice versa. So check out Dave on Twitter at Lofty_D, LOUGHY_D. You can also find him on Sirius 210 XM 87 with Awesemo Radio 5 to 7 on Saturday. Still 7 to 9 on Sunday? Yes?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
We won't be on this week or next week because the playoffs will be going through.
Oh, sure.
Much deserved break for myself and Manny, and I'm glad to take a couple days off, sit back, relax, maybe even have a couple drinks, Dan.
There you go.
Maybe
Get
even
right.
have a couple drinks.
Maybe. You can do that. Watch some NFL playoffs this weekend. As always, Lofty_D,
Birds, baby.
_D.
They're in it.
The NFC East. What a shit show. But nonetheless, better than the Jets. That is always a way to look at it.
You get in, anything can happen.
It was 9-7 Eli. He made it happen against the Pats. So
Eagles lost. Wentz got in, won the Super Bowl. Last year they got in at 9-7, beat the Bears, and the only reason they didn't have Alshon Jeffrey let one go right through his hands and got picked off. So I'm not going to speculate, but that was, what was it, a 3-point game or one score?
It was
game?
one score, definitely one score. Yep.
Yeah, definitely one score. I don't know if it was 3. Point being, like Seattle, and I'm an eternal pessimist, but Seattle's banged up too. I mean, they went from having Chris Carson and Rashad Penny to Marshawn Lynch and Robert Turbin.
Yes, sir. And bringing somebody else in for a tryout this week. I forget who it was, but it was a name that was a moment of, wow, they're really dredging the bottom of the barrel.
Was it not Turbin?
No, it was somebody else they brought in this week for a look after because Marshawn Lynch was
someone that we know of, like someone we.
Yeah, I got to look it up, and I'll tell you after we finish.
Yeah, let me know.
But, as always, you can find me on Twitter if you so choose at Dan Strafford. Saturday morning, you get Emac and Adam right here on the DFS Early Bird. Monday morning, it is Emac and Chris Randone. With that said, we wish you the best of luck on this Friday 6-game NBA slate. Till next time, this has been the DFS Early Bird presented by Awesemo.com.